Adrian Parker sat in his small apartment, surrounded by piles of paperwork and unopened books. He had just started a new job at a marketing agency, but he felt overwhelmed. The stress of the new environment made him anxious. He often found it hard to concentrate, and his thoughts raced in all directions. On his first day at work, he met new colleagues. Everyone seemed friendly and helpful, but Adrian felt like an outsider. He struggled to make connections and realized that his lack of confidence was holding him back. One evening, after a long day of work, Adrian stared at his reflection in the mirror. He noticed the worry lines on his forehead and the tired look in his eyes. "This is not who I want to be," he thought. He felt trapped and decided that it was time for a change. Adrian understood that if he wanted to feel better and succeed in his new job, he had to take control of his emotions. This realization was the first step on his journey to self-improvement. The next day, Adrian visited a local bookstore. He picked up a few books about emotional intelligence. The words self-awareness and resilience jumped out at him. As he read, he learned how to recognize and understand his own feelings. The books explained that emotional intelligence was not just for others, it could help him, too. Adrian felt a sense of hope that he could change his mindset. Inspired, Adrian joined a workshop focused on emotional growth. The workshop was filled with people just like him, all seeking to understand their emotions better. The speaker talked about self-regulation. Soon, Adrian discovered that self-regulation is about controlling emotions and reactions. He learned that it was okay to feel stress, but that he could handle it in a healthier way. For example, when he felt overwhelmed at work, he could take deep breaths or step away for a moment. During the workshop, Adrian practiced setting boundaries. He realized that saying no sometimes means respecting himself. He thought about how often he took on too much at work. Conflicts with coworkers became easier to manage when he expressed his needs clearly. The more he learned, the more confident he became. He started to understand the importance of surrounding himself with supportive people. As the weeks went by, Adrian applied these lessons in his daily life. He took time to reflect on his experiences. Each night, he would write in a journal about his feelings and the situations he faced. Slowly, he noticed changes within himself. The stress that once felt unmanageable became easier to handle. Living with emotional intelligence did not happen overnight, but Adrian was committed to his growth. He knew that adapting to a new job was not just about learning skills. It was also about learning to understand himself. By taking control of his emotions, Adrian began to feel empowered. He felt ready to embrace the challenges of his job. His journey of learning about emotional intelligence was just beginning, but each step brought new insights and strength. He understood that change starts from within. This is how he chose to improve his life and adapt to his new job. Each lesson made him feel more connected to himself and to others. Facing this challenge brought hope and a new connection to his emotional world. Through this journey, Adrian Parker was not only starting a new job, but he was also embracing change in the most meaningful way. The story of his transformation was about more than just work. It was about becoming aware and resilient. The sun was setting on another busy day at the marketing agency. Adrian Parker sat at his desk, staring at his computer screen. The work seemed endless, and the pressure was building. He had been assigned a project with a tight deadline. The more he tried to focus, the more his anxiety grew. He felt trapped under the weight of expectations. Everyone else seemed to handle their tasks with ease, but Adrian was struggling to keep up. One afternoon, Adrian had a meeting with his boss. During the meeting, Adrian presented his ideas, but the feedback was harsh. His boss wanted more details, different angles, and a better plan. Adrian could feel his heart racing. The words from his boss felt like sharp arrows hitting him. After the meeting, he walked back to his desk, his head spinning. He had put so much effort into the project, yet he felt defeated. In that moment, the frustration became too much to bear. Sitting at his desk, Adrian realized he had to do something different. The stress and pressure had taken control of his life, and he could not let it stop him from growing. As he reflected on his feelings, he remembered the lessons he had learned about emotional intelligence. He knew that simply feeling overwhelmed would not help him succeed. Adrian took a deep breath and started writing in his journal. He wrote down what happened in the meeting and how it made him feel. Writing helped him understand the root of his emotions. That night, Adrian made a plan. He decided he would try to approach challenges in a new way. Instead of avoiding difficult situations, he would face them head-on. Adrian remembered the concept of self-regulation. the ability to control his reactions to stressful events. He practiced seeing situations from a different angle. He focused on the facts, not his emotions. For example, he told himself that feedback is not a personal attack, it is a chance to learn. This change in thinking made him feel more empowered. The next day at work, Adrian faced another challenge. He needed to collaborate with a colleague named Lisa on the same project. In the past, Adrian would be nervous about asking for help, but today felt different. He approached Lisa with confidence. They discussed the project and shared ideas openly. To Adrian's surprise, the conversation was productive. He started to see how working together could lighten the load. It felt good to communicate. Their teamwork made the project stronger. As the week went by, Adrian learned that changing how he handled emotions was not just about coping. It was about growing. During lunch breaks, he would take a walk outside or meditate for a few minutes. These small practices help reset his mind. He noticed how these moments of peace allowed him to return to work with fresh energy. It was a big change, but he felt in control of his decisions. However, tension still rose. His boss called for an update on the project. Adrian prepared as best as he could, but fear of more criticism loomed. He felt a wave of stress again, but this time he was ready. The tools he had learned about emotional intelligence began to guide him. As the meeting approached, he reminded himself of the importance of being resilient. He felt ready to face the challenges. With new knowledge and a commitment to change, Adrian Parker was on a path to adapt to his job. He understood that each challenge had the power to teach him something valuable. The rising action of his story was just beginning, but he felt hopeful about the journey ahead. Each step was a chance to learn and grow emotionally, and he was finally starting to embrace change. After another long day at work, Adrian Parker returned home, feeling a mix of satisfaction and anxiety. The meeting with his boss was still fresh in his mind. He wanted to learn and grow, but he also felt lost in his emotions. That night, Adrian opened his journal and wrote about his feelings. As he read what he had written, he realized he wanted to understand his emotions better. He knew that to adapt to his new job, he had to start his emotional intelligence journey. The next morning, Adrian visited a local library. The bright lights inside made him feel hopeful. He searched for books about emotional intelligence. After a few minutes, he found a book titled The Power of Emotional Intelligence. His heart raced with excitement. Reading about self-awareness opened a new door for him. Self-awareness is about knowing your feelings and how they affect your thoughts and actions. Adrian highlighted sentences that resonated with him. Learning about himself excited him. Once home, he set aside time to read. As he turned the pages, Adrian discovered simple exercises that could improve emotional awareness. One exercise suggested keeping track of feelings during the day. Adrian thought this was a great idea. He grabbed his journal and wrote down his feelings as they changed. Sometimes he felt happy when he helped a colleague. Other times he noticed stress creeping in when tasks piled up. Writing helped him see patterns in his emotions. Soon, Adrian became committed to learning more about emotional intelligence. He decided to join a workshop on self-awareness. The workshop was hosted at a community center. When he arrived, he felt a little nervous but also excited. Inside, he met other people looking to understand their emotions better. The instructor welcomed everyone warmly and shared simple strategies to enhance self-awareness. During the workshop, one exercise stood out to Adrian. Participants were asked to sit quietly and close their eyes. They focused on their breaths and visualized their emotions. Adrian noticed that when he imagined his stress, it felt like a heavy weight on his chest. He learned to breathe slowly to create space for lightness. This moment became a turning point for him. It showed him that he could manage his feelings with practice. Throughout the workshop, Adrian felt a sense of belonging. Everyone shared their stories and struggles. Listening to others helped him realize he was not alone in his journey. Together, they celebrated small victories. Every time someone shared a breakthrough, Adrian felt inspired. He saw how all of them were trying to rise above their obstacles. For the first time, he felt hopeful about his progress. After completing the workshop, Adrian took his new knowledge back to work. He started to communicate his feelings with his team. When he felt overwhelmed, he spoke up rather than remaining silent. This change felt empowering. He learned to ask for help when tasks became too heavy. One day, Adrian approached Lisa and told her about his emotions during a busy week. She shared her own experiences, and they both smiled at how common stress was for everyone. This journey into understanding emotional intelligence filled Adrian with confidence. Each step helped build a stronger connection to himself and others. As he implemented the lessons he learned, he realized that self-awareness was a powerful tool to adapt to his new job. Adrian was beginning to live in the moment, understanding that feelings were part of being human. Slowly but surely, he was on the right path to embracing change with resilience and strength. His journey had only just started, but he was excited about what lay ahead. After the workshop, Adrian Parker felt inspired and hopeful. He was eager to apply everything he had learned about emotional intelligence. He started journaling every day to record his thoughts and feelings. At first, it felt good to write down what was happening in his life. However, as time passed, he realized that the process was not always easy. Some days, he struggled to find the right words. Other days, he felt too overwhelmed to write anything at all. One particularly tough day at work left Adrian feeling defeated. He had received feedback on a project that needed significant changes. His heart sank when he read his boss's comments. Adrian felt the familiar stress creeping back in. The anxiety that he had worked so hard to manage knocked on his door again. He took a moment to breathe deeply, but it was challenging to stay calm. The frustration bubbled up inside him, and he felt like giving up. Later that night, as he sat with his journal, Adrian wrote about his feelings again. "Why is this so hard?" he asked himself. He doubted whether he was capable of change. The journey to better emotional regulation seemed complicated. He remembered all the times he felt stuck or overwhelmed. It made him question his ability to improve. Adrian knew it was normal to have struggles, but sometimes it felt heavy. Determined to keep trying, Adrian explored mindfulness techniques that he learned in the workshop. He set a goal to practice for 10 minutes each morning. Sitting quietly seemed like a good idea. At first, he found it difficult to clear his mind. Thoughts about work and responsibilities raced through his head. He felt like he was trying to catch a whirlwind. After a few days, he almost gave up on mindfulness, thinking it was not worth the effort. However, deep down, he wanted to face these challenges. So, he pushed on and reminded himself that growth is a journey. Learning how to handle emotions took time and practice. One day, while practicing mindfulness, something shifted a bit. Adrian focused on his breath and found a sense of peace. For just a moment, he felt light and free from worry. That moment of clarity was short, but it filled him with hope. Here was proof that things could change, even if it was small. He began to realize that the process of emotional management wasn't about perfection, it was about progress. This realization made him want to keep trying, even on tough days. A sense of determination started to grow within him. As the days turned into weeks, Adrian noticed that his emotional ups and downs were still there. When difficulties arose, he often felt overwhelmed again. He missed deadlines at work and felt frustrated with himself. Doubts circled his mind like a storm. "Am I really making progress?" he would think. It often felt like taking one step forward and two steps back. Yet, despite the difficulties, Adrian stayed committed. He made time to reflect every evening. He would write in his journal and think about each part of his day. Writing became an important tool for him. It allowed him to express feelings and recognize patterns. Even when the path felt rocky, Adrian found comfort in knowing that setbacks were part of growth. He would remind himself, change is a journey. This was Adrian Parker's path to adapting to a new job through emotional intelligence. Though he faced many struggles, he understood that improvement requires patience and dedication. His willingness to keep trying showed his strength. Each day offered a new chance to learn, to grow, and to embrace change. Adrian was finally learning that progress is not always easy, but it is always possible. The day of the big presentation arrived. Adrian Parker felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. This was the moment he had been preparing for. His boss had gathered the whole team to hear their ideas on a major project. Adrian wanted to make a strong impression. However, doubt began to creep in as he stood in front of the mirror that morning. What if he forgot his lines? What if they did not like his ideas? As he walked into the meeting, the room buzzed with energy. Adrian noticed his colleagues chatting and sharing confidence. He took a deep breath, reminding himself to stay calm. He was ready to use the emotional intelligence skills he had learned. This was his chance to shine and to show everyone his growth. Adrian believed in what he had created and wanted to share it. As the presentation began, he talked about his ideas with passion. He felt the connection with his audience growing. When he finished the first part, applause filled the room. But as he began the second part, his voice trembled slightly. In that moment, a wave of anxiety rushed over him. A question from his boss pierced the air. Can you explain why your ideas would work better than the current plan? Adrian's heart raced. The question felt heavy and intimidating. In that instant, doubt returned. Adrian worried that he would stumble on his words. Could he handle this moment? He took a deep breath to ground himself. He knew that emotional regulation meant staying calm, even when tension rose. Adrian reminded himself to focus and listen carefully to the question. Then, he used empathy and put himself in his boss's shoes. Why was his boss worried? What could he address to ease those concerns? Adrian took another breath, knowing that he could respond effectively. Carefully, he recapped his ideas and sprinkled in facts that supported his case. As he spoke, his confidence grew. He no longer saw his boss as an enemy. Instead, he saw a partner seeking clarity. But suddenly, an unexpected comment came from a colleague who disagreed with him. The colleague raised objections and challenged Adrian's ideas harshly. Adrian felt a rush of emotions: surprise, frustration, and a bit of fear. He could feel the tension building in the room. But now was the moment. He remembered his commitment to positive communication. Instead of reacting with anger, he chose to listen carefully to the feedback. He paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts. Instead of defending himself immediately, he responded respectfully. Thank you for your feedback. I see your points, and I appreciate your honesty. It gives me a chance to clarify. Let me explain how I believe these changes can benefit our project. By using an open and calm voice, Adrian saw the atmosphere in the room start to change. As he explained his vision, Adrian maintained eye contact with his audience. He noticed nods of agreement slowly appearing. Even his questioning colleagues seemed to relax a bit. Adrian felt a newfound sense of empowerment. He was no longer the nervous employee who struggled with emotional challenges. Instead, he was growing into a confident communicator who could handle conflict. This emotional test turned into an opportunity. Adrian realized that using both self-regulation and empathy made a difference. Even when the stakes felt high, he could remain calm and connected. The more he spoke, the more clarity he gained. He embraced the turning point of his journey. This was not just about the presentation. It was about the growth he had achieved, and he was ready to face any challenge life presented. As Adrian Parker continued his presentation, he felt a shift in the atmosphere of the room. The challenging comments from his colleague hung in the air like thick fog. Doubt crept back into his mind, but he quickly reminded himself that this was part of his journey. He had worked hard to develop his emotional intelligence. Now, it was time to apply those lessons in this moment of tension. He focused on his breathing to help regain control. Adrian anchored himself in the present. As he took deep breaths, he felt his heart rate slow. The wave of fear began to settle, and he could think more clearly. This was not just about defending his ideas. It was about communicating effectively. Adrian realized that he needed to connect with his colleagues' feelings. What were the concerns that lay behind the criticism? Instead of responding with frustration, Adrian chose to approach his colleague with empathy. He looked at them and asked, "I see you have strong feelings about this. Can you share more about your concerns?" By opening the door to dialogue, Adrian showed that he valued the other person's perspective. He listened carefully as his colleague explained their viewpoint. The colleague's worries about the project were valid, yet Adrian felt a flicker of frustration. How could he lead the discussion while respecting everyone's voice? Using his emotional intelligence, he reminded himself not to react negatively. Instead, Adrian focused on clear communication. He needed to express his thoughts without letting emotions take over. "I understand your points, and I appreciate your honest feedback," Adrian said calmly. "My ideas are not final, and I want to make sure we all feel good about the direction we go." By acknowledging the feelings involved, he diffused some of the tension. Yet, deep inside, Adrian struggled with a wave of self-doubt. What if they still dismissed his ideas? What if he couldn't convince them? But as he spoke, he could see the team members beginning to engage. He decided to stay firm in his belief. "I think these changes can enhance the project. I'm open to suggestions on how we can modify them. Together, we can create something great." The atmosphere began to shift. Instead of feeling anger or sadness, Adrian felt his confidence build. By focusing on assertive communication, he was sharing his vision while inviting collaboration. He invited his colleagues into the conversation, encouraging them to be part of the solution. Slowly but surely, they started joining him, offering their ideas and building on his initial thoughts. When the conversation took a positive turn, Adrian felt lighter. The path was not easy, but he was glad he had chosen to stay calm and open. Each point made felt like a brick being removed from the wall that had formed in his mind. He was finding common ground, and the team began to pull together. This moment was significant for Adrian. It was proof that emotional intelligence was about facing challenges with understanding and clarity. As the meeting continued, Adrian realized that the most powerful change came not from defending himself, but from connecting with others. The low points he felt had turned into hope. By using self-regulation, empathy, and assertive communication, Adrian emerged stronger and more centered. He had faced the challenge head-on without losing sight of himself. This was his turning point, and he felt grateful for the journey so far. He knew he was not just adapting to a new job, he was learning how to thrive in it. As the meeting progressed, Adrian Parker could feel a sense of change in the room. His colleagues, once tense about his ideas, were now engaged and talking openly. Each new idea sparked creativity, and Adrian sensed excitement rising. He felt a shift in himself, too. The emotional weight that once pulled him down was now lifting. The trust he was building with his team was rewarding. At that moment, Adrian realized just how far he had come. A challenge that would have sent him into a spiral of anxiety was now an opportunity for connection. The skills of emotional intelligence that he worked hard to develop were no longer just concepts in books. They were alive and real. He used self-regulation, empathy, and clear communication to navigate the situation instead of succumbing to negative emotions. His heart swelled with pride as he welcomed contributions from every person in the room. It felt wonderful to encourage others to share their thoughts. By doing this, Adrian not only enriched the project but also fostered a collaborative spirit among his team. Every voice mattered, including his. Seeing his colleagues come together filled him with hope and confidence. This was teamwork at its best. When a colleague proposed an idea closely related to the project, Adrian felt grateful. Instead of being defensive, he embraced the input. "That's a great addition. Let's explore it further together," he said, feeling the energy shift into a positive flow. A wave of warmth spread through him as they built on this new idea. Adrian realized that he was no longer afraid of criticism. He was embracing it. As the meeting came to a close, the final plan began to form. Adrian felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The anxiety that used to grip him faded away. He saw the faces of his teammates shining with enthusiasm and support. Instead of feeling isolated, he now felt a part of something greater. This connection transformed his feelings. Adrian was not alone in this journey. They were all a team. When it was time to wrap up the meeting, Adrian thanked everyone for their effort and feedback. "We have created something special together today," he said sincerely. The room erupted in applause and smiles all around. Adrian felt the confidence surging within him, a feeling he thought was lost. He had successfully harnessed the power of his emotional intelligence. Driving home that evening, Adrian reflected on the events of the day. He realized that emotional intelligence was not just about managing his feelings, but also about understanding and connecting with others. Moments that once inspired fear now lit his path forward. This breakthrough had not only helped him at work, but had also changed how he viewed challenges in life. Learning to respond rather than react was a true victory for Adrian. He recognized the importance of patience with himself. As he embraced this journey, he knew there would still be bumps along the road, but he felt ready to face them. Emotional intelligence was showing him how to grow, and he felt empowered by this progress. With every challenge he faced, Adrian understood that he was becoming stronger. He could approach conflict with grace, openness, and understanding. Adrian Parker was on the path to not just adapting to a new job, but thriving in it. Every step he took was a chance to celebrate his growth, and he felt hopeful for what was ahead. Following action, after the presentation, Adrian Parker took a moment to breathe deeply and soak in what had just happened. He walked out of the meeting room feeling lighter than he had in months. His heart was full of joy and pride. The energy in that room was different now. He had connected with his colleagues in a way he never thought possible. The power of emotional intelligence was starting to shape his reality. Back at his desk, Adrian stared at the screen, but his thoughts wandered elsewhere. He reflected on how he had changed in recent weeks. The techniques of self-regulation, empathy, and effective communication were transforming his life. Before this journey, he often felt lost in anxiety and doubt. Now, he understood that awareness of his emotions brought him power. He could choose how to respond rather than simply react. Adrian began to write in his journal that afternoon. These reflections had become a sacred ritual for him. Writing down his thoughts helped him process the changes he was experiencing. Today was a big step, he wrote. I faced my fears, listened to others, and shared my ideas openly. Each word brought a sense of relief. He was learning that expressing his feelings was not a sign of weakness, but a key to unlocking personal growth. As he reviewed the weeks leading up to this moment, Adrian recognized that emotional intelligence was more than just a set of skills. It was a way of life. He thought about how many times he had stepped back from overwhelming moments and instead focused on solutions. He no longer felt the urge to hide when difficult situations arose. He now embraced them with confidence and courage. Being able to regulate his emotions helped him act calmly in all areas of his life, not just at work. He remembered a recent argument with a close friend. Instead of reacting with anger, he had chosen to listen and understand their point of view. This new mindset not only strengthened their relationship, but showed him the importance of empathy. He smiled at the thought, realizing that he could face challenges with a fresh perspective. Adrian started to notice how these changes rippled outward. Colleagues tended to approach him more often, asking for advice and guidance. They sensed the confidence he carried now. He felt grateful to be a part of a positive work environment. The hard-won trust and collaboration were paying off in rewarding ways. Stepping into his role felt less daunting and more fulfilling every day. Time passed, and Adrian decided to apply for a leadership role within the company. The fear that once held him back was now merely a whisper in the back of his mind. He knew that he could communicate his vision clearly while understanding the needs of his teammates. The combination of self-awareness and empathy would serve him well. He was eager to use what he had learned to inspire others. Reflecting on his journey, Adrian felt a new sense of purpose. He realized that the power to change lay within him. Each difficult situation had become an opportunity to grow, rather than a reason to shrink back. He had the ability to shape his emotions and reactions through practice and awareness. The change he sought had become a new reality, a life filled with hope, connection, and strength. With each step, Adrian opened his heart and mind to the possibilities ahead. Personal growth was not just a dream, but a daily reality. He felt excited for what the future held, knowing he had the skills to navigate life's challenges. The journey of embracing emotional intelligence was one he was prepared to continue, and he was ready to face anything that came his way. In the weeks that followed, Adrian Parker continued to embrace the lessons he had learned about emotional intelligence. The victory of the presentation motivated him to practice these skills every day. He knew that emotional regulation could not be a one-time effort. It had to become a way of life. Each morning, he set aside time to reflect and prepare himself for the challenges ahead. Adrian made it a habit to write in his journal every evening. He recorded not just what happened during the day, but how he felt about it. This practice helped him to stay aware of his emotions. Some days were easier than others, but he made sure to celebrate each victory, large or small. For example, when he successfully calmed himself during a stressful situation, he would write, "Today, I took deep breaths and stayed focused." Recognizing his progress reinforced his commitment to personal growth. At work, Adrian began experimenting with setting boundaries. He noticed that some tasks felt overwhelming due to unclear expectations. Instead of letting this frustration build up, he took the initiative to talk to his boss. He said, "I want to make sure I am meeting the objectives you expect. Could we clarify some of the priorities for this project?" This request made a huge difference. It not only eased his workload, but also improved his relationship with his boss, who appreciated his willingness to communicate. As the days progressed, Adrian noticed his resilience growing. Facing challenges at work no longer brought panic. Instead, he approached them with a calm and focused mind. When a coworker asked for help on a difficult task, he felt empowered to say, "I have a lot on my plate right now, but I can support you on this later." Setting this boundary was essential for his emotional well-being. He learned that self-care did not mean neglecting others. It meant respecting his own needs. Outside of work, Adrian applied these newfound skills to his personal life, too. He engaged in honest conversations with friends and family. Conflict was not easy, but he approached it with empathy and understanding. One weekend, he had a disagreement with a close friend about plans they had made. Instead of feeling angry, Adrian calmly expressed how he felt. They discussed their thoughts openly, resolving the conflict without hurt feelings. As he navigated through life's ups and downs, Adrian felt a sense of balance emerging. The skills he practiced allowed him to remain centered in moments of stress. When life threw challenges his way, he could breathe through them rather than being swept away. He recognized that emotions were natural and that it was okay to feel a variety of them. A sense of calm washed over him when he understood that he had the power to choose how he reacted to each situation. Each day presented new growth opportunities, and Adrian stepped into them with confidence. He became more attuned to his emotions, identifying patterns that helped him improve even further. Instead of viewing obstacles as setbacks, he regarded them as chances to learn. This shift in perspective turned challenges into fuel for development. Emotional intelligence was now a vital part of who Adrian was. It transformed not just his work life, but his entire experience. He felt empowered to choose his responses wisely, no matter the situation. With every passing week, he recognized how much control he had over his feelings and reactions. The balance he found brought a newfound joy, and Adrian was eager to see where this path would take him next. Resolution. As Adrian Parker looked back on his journey of growth, he felt a deep sense of pride and empowerment. The challenges that once overwhelmed him had become stepping stones toward a more balanced life. Emotional intelligence was no longer just a skill he practiced. It had transformed into a way of life. He understood that managing emotions was important, but using them wisely to create connections and fulfillment was even more vital. At work, things continued to flourish. His relationships with colleagues had deepened. Adrian now welcomed feedback and embraced collaboration. People felt comfortable coming to him for support. This morning, as he walked into the office, he received a warm greeting from Lisa. "I really appreciate how you handle everything. You inspire us all," she said cheerfully. Her words filled Adrian's heart with joy. It was incredibly reassuring to hear that his efforts were making a positive impact on others. Each day at work brought new challenges, but Adrian approached them with confidence. When a tough project approached, he did not feel the fear that used to paralyze him. Instead, he saw these challenges as opportunities to apply what he had learned. He balanced his workload carefully and set boundaries whenever necessary. With each task, his emotional resilience grew stronger. In his personal life, Adrian thrived as well. Friends called him more often now. They enjoyed spending time with someone who listened and cared. Adrian continued to have honest conversations, even when conflicts arose. He felt grateful for the support system he had built. The trust between him and his friends deepened. At social gatherings, he found great satisfaction in sharing laughter and experiences. The ability to connect with others on a deeper level added richness to his life. One Sunday afternoon, Adrian decided to reflect more deeply on his experiences. He returned to his journal, where he documented his journey. As he wrote about his recent experiences, he realized how far he had come. No longer did he view emotions as burdensome. They were his guides. Each feeling taught him something new. He wrote, "I have learned to embrace my emotions and use them, not hide from them. This has changed everything." With self-awareness and empowerment, each day felt brighter and full of potential. Adrian understood that growth was an ongoing journey. He embraced the idea that he could always learn more. Each step forward felt balancing, and he was happy for the journey. The tools of emotional intelligence had become lifelong companions. When Adrian applied for the leadership role he once dreamed of, there was no doubt in his mind. He believed he had the skills to inspire others and to lead with integrity and empathy. After submitting his application, Adrian felt excited and hopeful rather than anxious. He knew that he could face any outcome with grace because he had built strength within himself. Whatever awaited him next would be part of his growth. As Adrian reflected on his path, he felt immense gratitude. The lessons he learned brought him empowerment and joy. He understood that emotional intelligence was about more than just managing emotions. It was his key to unlocking a life filled with connection, purpose, and balance. With a heart full of hope, Adrian embraced his future. He was ready to take on whatever came next. Each day was a chance to evolve, to learn, and to inspire. He had found the treasure of emotional intelligence, and it would guide him through all his life's adventures. Adrian Parker was finally living the fulfilling life he had always wanted, and he couldn't wait to see where his journey would take him next. As Adrian Parker continued his journey, he realized that the changes he embraced were only the beginning. Every day brought new lessons and insights into emotional intelligence. He felt a sense of peace knowing that this power was within everyone, including you. Just as he had worked hard to build his skills, he knew that anyone could do so. 2. The key was to practice consistently and with kindness toward oneself. Adrian understood that emotional intelligence is not just about learning or achieving. It is about understanding your feelings and using them wisely. The more he reflected on his experiences, the more he wanted to share this knowledge with others. I want everyone to know how important emotional intelligence is in life, he thought. His happiness and personal growth were testimonies to the fact that these skills lead to a more fulfilling life. He began organizing workshops at work, encouraging his colleagues to explore their emotions and foster open communication. Let's talk about how emotions affect us. Let's discover ways to improve together, he encouraged them. The workshops transformed the workplace into a supportive environment. Colleagues expressed feelings more freely and began to collaborate creatively. This shift not only improved project outcomes, but also built stronger relationships among team members. Adrian knew the importance of sharing steps that could help others embrace emotional intelligence. He wanted to reach out to those who felt stuck, just as he once did. He started a short newsletter to share tips on emotional awareness and regulation that his team could easily understand and follow. Each week, he offered simple exercises for practice. For example, he suggested taking a minute to breathe deeply when feeling stressed. This simple action empowered employees to ground themselves before reacting. At a team meeting, Adrian invited everyone to share their personal growth stories. They took turns discussing their wins and struggles. Hearing each other's experiences encouraged a sense of community. It's okay to feel overwhelmed sometimes, he reminded them. What matters is how we respond and grow. This open environment allowed people to learn from one another. They supported each other on their journeys, reinforcing that they were not alone. With every step forward, Adrian realized the power of self-compassion. He understood that personal growth is not a straight path. There will be bumps along the way, and that is fine. Emotions are teachers, he said with a smile, and every lesson helps us grow. He consistently practiced self-acceptance when emotions flared, showing that it's normal to have ups and downs. As he looked ahead, he wanted to remind everyone that embracing emotional intelligence is possible for anyone. You can start this journey, too, by simply reflecting on your feelings. Take small steps each day. Start writing in a diary to understand your emotions better or talk with friends about how you feel. Slow down your reactions in stressful situations by taking a few deep breaths and choosing a positive response. In conclusion, Adrian felt hopeful for his future and the future of others. The journey of emotional intelligence was not just about personal empowerment, but about growing together. He cheered on anyone reading this story, encouraging them to embrace their emotions and take action. You have the power to shape your mindset, your emotions, and your future, he said, filled with conviction. Be patient and gentle with yourself as you embark on this journey. Remember, each step you take is a chance to create a more fulfilling life. You can do this. And with that empowering message, Adrian felt energized, not just for himself, but for everyone around him. The world was full of possibilities, waiting to be embraced.